Welcome, subscribers. Welcome, new subscribers. Thank you for supporting the channel and sharing and liking our videos. We appreciate you supporting us here. My name is Reverend Penelope Stewart Horton. You can call me Miss Penny. I run the chemistry channel and the spiritual wellness store. Today I'm going to be talking about the American matriarch. I'm gonna be talking about the South and North and matriarchs here in America. I don't think that's covered as much, and I think it's important because as history moves on, we're gonna find out that everything originated here in Americas and not in Africa. And I've explained to you why they do what they do, why they say what they say. When it comes to those Moors, you can go back and watch that video if you're interested in watching that. So, to start with the matriarchs, again, we have to start with the goddess. We have to start with the goddess worship. It was a global phenomenon from its beginning in prehistoric era up until the present day. Archaeological remains from Upper Paleolithic and Neolithic cultures suggest that goddesses were frequently worshipped at important stages of the life cycle. Figurines from Neolithic sites depict a goddess in three forms of a young woman, mother giving birth, and an old woman. Other images point to a human relationship with nature, including animals and agriculture. Ancient artifacts and texts from Greece and Rome, the Near East, India, China, and Japan demonstrate the goddess worship played a central role in the development of civilizational aspects, including agriculture, regulation of fertility and procreation, protection and defense, civic identity, spiritual and artistic expression. There is evidence that goddess worship has had a continuous presence in Asian cultures, as well as the traditions of indigenous people in sub-Saharan Africa and those of Native Americans across the Americas. In contrast, goddess worship appears to have been interrupted in cultures that came to promote a single male deity. Contemporary goddess worshippers in these cultures viewed their spiritual practice as both recovery and innovative. Traditions that celebrate goddess offer opportunities for women to assume publicly constituted active religious leadership, such as roles of priestess. Generally, the priestess have a mystically inflected liturgical function. For example, in Greek, the Sibyls, the Pythias, or the priestess presided over the Delphic oracle. The Pythia was responsible for communicating prophecies from Apollo, and the oracle was consulted on all significant civic occasions. Some priestesses were also associated with the arts and letters. You see, all of this came from women first, like I've told you, and I will say it over again. All the government, all the writing, all the arts came from the women. That's who established that first. Women established that first, and men followed suit. Remember, man is are learning from the mothers. They're learning from the women. Women were an integral part of every aspect of society during the pre-Columbian reign, which we're going to talk about that. So when we go to look at the history of America, first we have to go in and we have to look at pre-Columbian civilization because I had a difficult time. I had to look for the Pueblo civilizations. I had to look at pre-Columbian civilization. I had to look at the Incan Empire, the Mayan Empire, the Aztec Empire, the Olmec Empire, because all of that, see, they try to separate it to confuse us, but it's all one big empire. It's important for you to understand that all of these people are indigenous. All these women are indigenous, and it's all one empire, and they have been separated to kind of confuse us. But when we start looking at the era and start looking at the pre-Columbian civilization and looking at the Incans, they fall up under there. The Mayans fall up under there. The Olmecs fall up under there. The Andean culture falls up under the pre-Columbian civilization. So that's how I was able to find much of this information today. Women role in American society was very different from the women in most European societies at that time. Since most European women, including Spanish women, were looked as existing solely to benefit their husbands because of this much of evidence regarding roles, pre-Columbian Incan women played a distorted by the views of prejudice of Spanish men who wrote about the Inca Empire. And so in that statement, you're saying that the Spanish came in and colonized the pre-Columbian civilization. Okay, that's why Mexico speaks Spanish now, because you have the Spaniard concords coming in, conquistadors or whatever you want to call them, coming in colonizing Mexico, and that is the Inca and the Olmec, Aztec, Mayan civilization that you see there. And if you go to old Mexico, you will see the dark people that are still there. They are not from Africa, they are from that region. The culture looks light there because of the Spaniards came in and lightened them up. Okay, you have some pale color Spaniards coming in, lighting up their civilizations, as well as dark Spaniards. I want you to know that too, because it took dark colored people to come in here and invade the way they did. So the first invaders are going to look like me and you, and then later, uh, you'll see the lighter Spaniards come in, because you have these Moors that have this relationship with these European Spaniards as well. That explains why you see these light colored Spaniards coming in here. But the first colored Spaniards you see coming into pre Columbian civilization is the dark skinned Spaniards, okay? However, it is possible to reconstruct the world of women in Incan society because of the large variety of sources about the Incas written by the Spanish chronicles during or immediately after the conquest. It appears women in Incan society had a distinctly separate role from men, and that this role was viewed as complementary to the role of men and a necessary component of their society. This was true in all facets of Incan life, including religion, politics, family, and economics. It also appears that women in the Incan society had more autonomy and power than many of the Spanish counterparts because of the Spaniards had a hard time relating to the Incan society accurately in their chronicles. The Spanish didn't understand one of the most important aspects of the Incan society and gender roles. Again, we have the Spaniards coming into this American society. And again, when you hear me speak about Incans, when you hear me speak about Mayans, Olmecs, pre-Columbian, this is all pre-Columbian civilization and is directly linked to America. Okay, and so when the Spanish come in here, they don't understand. They was like, "Wow, how come these women have so much power here in the Americas? Why are they able to rule in the capacity that they're able to rule in? Wow, they really and they were prejudiced against the women. They didn't want to write this stuff in their journals, but they had to write it because that's what they found when they came over here. They found that women had these spiritual and political roles that impacted the nation. Queens fulfilled their duties expected of her as a woman. She was able to assume privileges and powers. These women dressed in masculine garb, waged wars, played power politics, and commissioned monuments touting their achievements in Maya texts. Scholars have identified around 35 women from a variety of ruling families who wed outside of their dynastic group. Yet the Cornwall seems to have prioritized and benefit from this strategy more than others. Indeed, two of the most powerful Mayan women known was Lady Cabell and Lady Siska, were stranger queens in service of the Kalnol. Okay, so what you'll see in the codex too, and I thought this was very interesting when I started looking at the Mayan Olmec codex, I started realizing that you really couldn't tell the men from the women. And you'll see that in some of the stuff that we go on today because women did not wear their tops covered. So sometimes you couldn't tell the women from the men because women didn't wear their top covered as well. You'll see that in some of the art they have the woman looking sort of like a man, but really these were women empires. Okay, so I'm thinking too that they went in and changed the gender of some of this artwork as well. Not just changing the artwork from black to white, but from woman to man as well. Because when you look at some of these codex and some of this garb that they're wearing, these are women dressed up in some of these stuff, but yet you'll see them being identified as men. I think that's very important to understand when it comes to pre-Columbian history and looking at pre-Columbian history and learning and really understanding the cover up here. That's what I'm trying to say, the cover up here and how they've covered it up. But I want you to take a look at these codexes here and see for yourself kind of how they've covered things up. And even in some of this artwork, how they have covered some things up when it comes to identifying the American matriarchs here. Okay? The status of women in Mayan society can be inferred from their burials. You'll see that, the mounds that we see all over America and everywhere. You can contribute that to the pre-Columbian civilization, the Olmecs, the Mayans, and the Incans, and the textual monumental history. Mayan societies included Antonia, a city that developed a matrilineal system of hereditary descent after the reign and death of powerful leader, Lady Quill. Lady Quill's reign is documented in murals that depict her seated on a throne with captors at her feet. Lady Tekal assumed leadership role at the age of 6 but did not rule on her own. Her relationships to Bergclaw, who may have been her successor, is unknown due to the problems of deciphering the text. Lady Yo Eknal took the throne of Planique in 583 when Can Balam I, the seventh ruler, died and left no heir. The relationship between her and the previous king remains undetermined, though she appears to have been either his daughter or sister. She ruled for more than 20 years. She also carried full royal titles, as uncommon occurrence for women. See, this is new. We have these Spanish that's writing this because this is new to them. The Spaniards, they didn't have that. Again, we have these patriarchs coming in trying to start this system. There's a matrilineal system put in place, and it's beyond them why it's like this. Okay, but these women were ruler, and we got to remember these Spaniards, they were biased when it come to women rulers. So it's only so much they're going to put in here, but it's enough for us to understand that these women were in fact real rulers and they had powerful impacts in their societies. Muwan Mott. I thought this name. It reminds me of Mayat, also known as Lady Sek Kauk or Lady Beastie. Yeah, Beastie. Ruled for a short time. Lady Sakuuk, known as Queen Muwan Mott, and Lady Beastie was the second recorded female ruler of the Mayan city Planique. Hellenic. In order to legitimize her rule, she declared divinity for herself as a creation goddess. Lady Saku would rule for 3 years. See, this goes back when I'm telling you, we have to claim our own sacred power, and she did this. She claimed her own divinity as a ruler, and I think it's another in here that did the same thing. They claimed their theological, liturgical roots in order to give them power as queen as well. You'll see that I saw that as I researched this subject, and I was really determined to get this information out to the dark skinned women in the Americas so you can understand your ancient mothers here in this land and who they were. So you can understand your sacred power. Lady Six Sky Reigns was most impressive. She was the daughter of Bajlach Chan Kawil of Das Palace and arrived at Naranjo in the position of ruling queen and established a new dynasty. Lady Six Sky commissioned monuments that note she performed important calendric rituals, some shortly after her arrival. Additionally, she is shown on monuments taking on the role of warrior king by standing over a trampled captive, an unusual representation for a woman. Again, the first protectors were women, okay? And you got these Spaniards coming in here, they don't understand this. They're looking at this like, this woman is a woman king. What's going on with this? Again, a lot of pre-Columbian history is hidden from us. Like I said, I had to look in 3 or 4 different cultures to bring this together as one pre-Columbian research. Again, because when they talk about pre-Columbian civilizations, they will try to separate them: the Olmecs, the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Incans. But in reality, these are descendants from the same civilization, and they're calling them different things. I think for me is to name the era. They're trying to be able to identify the era. But in reality, these are the same people. Now they start to change as the Spaniards come in here and start to colonize, but these are the same people. Okay? Lady Ixchel, also known as Lady Evening Star. Okay, is this making sense? When I started looking at this, I was like, oh my gosh, you could see the Egyptian links here. Came to Yalishin from Calakmul. She was a secondary wife to Ismail Balaam III, who was referred to as Shield Jaguar. The second, Shield Jaguar the Great. Okay, these colonial stranger queens, as University of Miami archaeologist Tracy Arden has called them, had certain obligations demanded by their sex and gender. These royal women were sorcerers and privy to arcane knowledge about rituals and calendar keeping. Okay, so like I told you, they knew about the rituals. They had contact with this sacred power. That's why they were put in these positions of high authority the way there was, because they knew these rituals. They divined the future and connected with spirits, perhaps to determine the auspicious dates on which to invade rival cities. We often see the women portrayed as openers of portals or as communicators with the ancestors, says Arden. You have this archaeologist. This archaeologist is bringing this information, and you're going to hear this from archaeologists. You're not going to so much hear this from historians, but archaeologists, I love them because they're so truthful and they tell it like it is. And historians will come in and try to like debunk them, but it's impossible to do because the artifacts and the history is there. And you got these patriarchs coming in trying to debunk some of that, but I love that they said this beautifully. Above all, though, the queens were expected to be wives and mothers, producing the heirs needed to perpetuate the dynastic bloodlines. I'm going to Okay, now in order to understand and find the history of women reigning, that you have to understand the history of colonial caciques. Because now, when the colonials come in, they're calling them caciques, moving beyond the antidotes of individuals in the Spanish America. Their work focuses on evolution of indigenous leadership, particularly lineage of succession of these positions in different regions. Through the lens of Native Americans' political activism, such activism might mean the intervention of caciques in the economic, familiar, religious realms, or their participation in official, unofficial matters of government. The authors explore the role of such personal authority and political influence across the broad geographic, chronological, and thematic range in patterns of succession. The settings of frontier regions, ethnic relations, and the importance of purity of blood, gender and family dynamics, legal marital strategies for defending communities, and continuation of indigenous governance. Okay, so you have them coming in, and when they see these women, they're like, "Oh, these are caciques. These this who they are." So you have the Spanish coming in calling them something else, but they're really much more. And this is the only way the Spanish are able to really identify, who are these women, what is their roles, they're caciques. And so again, you have outside influence naming and labeling who these women are. Mama Aklo taught the women of her people the arts of spinning, weaving, and her brother husband caused the stone fortification of the holy city of Cuzco to be built. Mama, Mama Aklo and Manco Capic had two children, Mama Cora and Sensei Roca, who began the Incan ruling dynasty 1. There were other Incan queens as well, but not much is known about them. Cora Oslo died in 1539. She was an Incan queen, Poya. She goes by that name as well. Her abduction and rape by Gonzalo Pizarro contributed to the split between her spouse and the Spanish, and the start of the Incan rebellion against the Spanish. So you see these men from the Spanish, they come in and they rape this man's wife. And he knew that this was gonna happen because the man was looking at the wife. And again, the wife has the land. They were doing this because they knew that these women had the land and these men were their protectors. And he tried to protect his wife before this happened. But this man, and again, these people look just like us. They're not sending people over that don't look like us. They're sending people over that look just like us. And then later on, they send the overseers, which the people are pale color people that they have agreed with. This we have these Moors that have these relationships with these pale color people. It's important for you to understand what's going on because the pale color people were not the first people to come over here. They were not. There were people, brown color, copper color people that look just like us. All skin folks ain't kin folks, and that's the truth. The Inca Empire also, the Inca Empire was called the largest empire in pre-Columbian America. The administration, political, and military center of the empire was in the city of Cusco. The Inca civilization rose from the Peruvian highlands sometime in the early 13th century. The Spanish began to conquest the Inca Empire in 1532, and by 1572, the last Incan state was fully conquered. Okay, so you see them come in, and this lines up with the timeline of slavery, uh, prisoners of war, if that's what you want to call it. That's what happened here. But we had a variety of Incan, Mayan, Olmec, because I Pueblo. I name them like this because I have to, because they have separated the history when it comes to that pre-Columbian civilization, especially down there in Mexico. They worked hard to try to separate those civilizations when they all are descendants from the same place. They worked hard trying to separate that. The Spaniards did. So, and every European nation, they do that. The conquerors, they do that. And so I wanted to come here and share this story with you, about the American queens who were able to rule the Americas for millennials. And that information is going to come to light as these pyramids are unmounded here in the Americas, as they uncover these secret cities in Guatemala, over there in Mexico, in that area in South America. As they uncover this stuff, we are going to see who were the real rulers. Okay. And so, women of color here in America, you have ancient grandmothers here that rule for millennials. And that is where you come from. That is your sacred power. And you're going to find out that all the cultures, originated from America and then spread out. History is being taught in reverse. And they're working hard to say it's from Africa again, because you have these Moors coming out of Africa. Okay, you have these Moors coming in contact with the matriarchs in Africa, and they start to settle into Africa, going into Europe. They are trying to contribute things to themselves, even though they learned everything from their mother, their ancient mother, the mother here in the Americas. Okay, I hope you found this video insightful. I hope it was helpful, and it helped you understand how to do your research when it comes to finding ourselves, because it's been very politely hidden. But archaeologists, I love them because they don't mind coming forth and telling the truth. Thank you for being here with me today, beloved. Light, love, namaste, ashe, loved one.